Okay, let's go ahead and get started. And I'm sure some people are just going to start filtering in, and that's okay. So I hope you're in the right room. You are here with me. I'm Jack. I was introduced earlier. I'm the assistant registrar advising here at the Innis College Registrar's office. And this is the session specifically for students that are in the humanities and social science admission stream. So hopefully you're in the right place. If you're not, please go ahead and go to the breakout room section of your Zoom to make sure that you go to the right place. So let's go ahead and get started. I will just start off with saying, so there's going to be roughly 3 sections. I'm realizing that I'm super washed out on the video. Sorry about that if I'm blinding you. But there's going to be 3 sections, and after each section, I'm going to have a little bit of time to ask questions. And my colleague Donald is here to help answer some of those questions in the chat if you have any. So do feel free to start populating that with questions. But then during that question period, you can unmute and just ask, and we can have a conversation. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. We're going to be talking about courses first, then we're going to dwell a little bit on programs, and then with the time remaining, we're going to talk a little bit about that all-important planning piece. So to start off, I just have a quick quiz to make sure that everybody was listening to Denise earlier this morning, just to make sure that these topics that I want to talk about, you actually know the answers to. So you can put this in the chat, you can unmute yourself and shout them out, whatever your answer, or however it is you want to answer. Can anybody in the room tell me what faculty you're a part of? Yes, thank you, Nicole. You are indeed students in the Faculty of Arts and Science. So you are a member of the Innis College, or of the Innis College, but within Innis College, or outside of the Innis College, you're part of the Faculty of Arts and Science. You are going to be joining the 2024-2025 academic session. That's a fall-winter session, and that fall-winter session is split into 2 terms, both the 2024 fall and the 2025 winter. So we're going to be spending a little bit of time on something called the timetable builder a little later in the session. But it's really important that when we go to the timetable builder and when you are using the timetable builder, that you set the filters correctly for looking for the right courses. And so you need to make sure you identify your faculty correctly, as well as the session that you're enrolling in. For course load, can anybody tell me what a standard full-time course load would look like? You can just shout it out if you want. We guess we could probably get there pretty quick. 5 credits, yeah. So 5 FCEs or full credit equivalents is what a standard full-time course load is. When we are talking about your planning and we're talking about your courses for your first year, we're generally going to be assuming you're taking 5. So just keep that in mind. You can take fewer. Taking 2.5 credits or less would be part-time. 3.0 credits or more would be full-time. But the most important thing to keep in mind for your first year is that you're going to need at least 4 credits or more to advance to your second year, which is really important for your programs. So just keep that in mind. So we did talk about this in Denise's section, so I don't want to spend too much time on this, but can anybody tell me what H1F would mean on a course code?
Half-year fall semester.
Exactly, yeah. So that would be a half-year fall semester course. The H indicates that it's a half or a 0.5 FCE, and the fall would indicate that it's in the fall term. S would be winter term. The example here with Social 101, or sorry, Social 100, we can see that it's a course that is a half credit running in the fall. Y1Y, on the other hand, which is pretty intuitive, so I'll just go ahead and say it, is a full year course that's worth a full credit. So the example here would be the Modern Standard Japanese. This is a course that's running in both the fall and the winter terms of the session and will be worth a total of 1 credit of that 5 credit full-time load that we're looking to fill. There are courses that have either a Y1F or Y1S, and there's also courses that have an H1Y. The Y1F or Y1S being that it's a full credit running in one term. It takes up the slot of two courses, and the H1Y being a course that runs for the whole year, but is only worth a half credit. So it's basically a quarter credit per term. They're very uncommon, and particularly for our admission stream, we don't need to worry about them too much at this point. So just bear in mind that they do exist. So, talking about courses, there's a couple of broad categories that I want to dwell a little bit on. Principal Keel did talk about this a little bit, or Kyle, sorry, Principal Kyle. So, the first big one is the one that he mentioned for first year students. It's the big format courses. So, if you take a look, there's a list of a couple of them in the middle of the screen here. As humanities and social science students, there's a good chance you're going to be taking at least some of these courses, a Paul 101, the Social 100 and 150. These are the biggest courses that you're probably going to have in your time here at the University of Toronto. Some of them get as big as 1,500 seats. If you've ever been to campus or you came for a campus tour, a con hall, that big room, that giant hall that students graduate in, that's going to be where these courses are being held. These courses are more sort of like a very much a presentation format for what is hopefully and usually a very charismatic prof. Their job is to make sure that they engage you. Their job is to make sure that they come up with opportunities to use like clickers and voting systems to sort of try to keep you engaged. But it's a huge, huge space, and they're going to be spending most of their time just dictating to you. And so it's more of like a viewing experience that you're going to be having in these kinds of courses. They will usually still have a tutorial or a practical section, which we're going to talk a little bit about later. And those tutorial and practical sections are still going to be small and in a small class experience, but your overall experience with the course is still going to be in this really big space, taking in what the prof is saying to you. The other extreme is the small courses. So 54% of the first year courses that are available within the Faculty of Arts and Science are capped at 30 students or less. A lot of those courses are going to be those seminars that I'm going to be talking about in the next slide. These courses, rather than the big format courses, are really, really focused on a lot of participation from students and conversations with the prof or the TAs. These are the sort of the courses that you're not going to be able to like hide that you haven't done the readings, because you're going to be expected to engage with the content. You're going to be expected to talk about what you learned through the readings and to engage the questions that the prof has for you. Great place to meet other students in areas of interest, whether it's like the first year courses for a program, or as we were talking about before with Principal Kyle, the first year foundation seminars. So there are two first year foundation type programs. There's either the seminars, which we're going to talk about first, and there's the ones after that. The seminars, broadly speaking, are very similar to just a small format course, but it's 25 students or less. And the seminar format essentially means that this is a course that has a pretty narrow area of interest, a pretty narrow area of inquiry that the prof that is running the course is very interested in and really wants to engage first year undergraduate students in a conversation about that topic. If you find a first year foundation course that you think has a really cool topic, you're almost certainly going to love the course because the prof is going to like it. You're going to like it. It's going to result in really enthusiastic conversations. I really strongly encourage that you try to take at least a half credit of these courses. Now, with that being said, these seminars are typically strictly electives. There's a handful of exceptions, but usually these seminar courses will not count towards program admission requirements, which we're going to talk about later. So we do encourage you to take no more than one of these courses per term for a total of 1 FCEs. Just in case you're curious about these links, if they're not working right now, because they won't, it's in a presentation, you will have the opportunity to look at these slides when they're posted later this week on the Innis 101, so you'll be able to access that later. The other first year foundation course type is the one programs. So the one programs are sort of similar to the seminar courses. However, they're organized around a specific theme or area that each one program has, and each of the colleges, as well as the Monk School sorry, I can't remember what it's the Monk School of, but the Monk School have their own one programs. Now, there's a couple of one programs that do have specific applications, the Monk one, the Trinity one, and the Vic one. Unfortunately, those applications have passed already. So if you didn't know about this and you're interested, I'm sorry to tell you, you can't apply at this point. But there are many of the ones programs like Innis's Creative City that you can still participate in without any application. These courses are similar to the first year foundation seminar courses that are offered specifically for Innis students. However, Creative City is 4 courses that are all organized around a similar idea about the creative city. If you're at all interested in the 3 programs that Innis College hosts, being Cinema Studies, Urban Studies, and Writing or Rhetoric, these courses are going to touch on these areas and give you interesting opportunities to do things like city tours and engage with the community. They're pretty cool. So if you do want to take a look at what the Creative City is all about, you can consider enrolling in those courses as well. Okay, so now that I've sort of gone over what the various kinds of courses you might take look like, I want to start talking a little bit about when you're looking at the timetable builder, when you're going to be planning your courses, what a course listing actually looks like. So there's a few things that we're going to want to look at when we're talking about course listings. Obviously, there's the course description, what the course is all about. There are the prerequisites, the co-requisites, and the exclusions for a course. Hopefully this is fairly intuitive, but you can probably guess the prerequisite would mean that there's courses that you have to take before you take the course. A co-requisite is a course you have to take alongside the course. And an exclusion is a course that if you have taken it before, you've taken the exclusion before you took that course, you cannot get credit for taking that course. We're also going to talk a little bit about enrollment indicators. Principal Kyle made mention of priority and priority for Innis students in the FYF Innis courses. I'm going to explain a little bit about what that actually means. We want to look at the delivery method. There are courses that are entirely in person. There are courses that are entirely online. Of those online courses, some of them are synchronous, meaning you have to be there at a specific time of the day. Some of them are asynchronous. They're entirely self-paced. And there are courses whose sections are split. So some of the lecture section will have one, will be in person, for example, and the tutorial will be online. It's important you know that for when you're planning your courses. You're going to want to look, obviously, at when the sections for courses are scheduled. Courses will always have a lecture section. They will often have a tutorial section. In the case of our students here, the Humanities Social Science, you're not going to see a lot of practical sections, as the practicals are typically like labs and that sort of thing. But if a course has both a lecture and a tutorial, you need to be in one section of each. So you need to make sure that you're planning your schedule carefully around that. And then lastly, you want to make sure that you're looking at any specific timetable instructions for a course. And we'll try to look at an example that has specific timetable instructions. This again is a link for later. It's a map to one of the handiest maps that I know of campus to help you sort of make sense of where your courses are going to be happening. As Donald mentioned in his introduction, we cover 35 city blocks. You have 10 minutes to get between classes because if you were to take a course from 1 to 2 and then a course from 2 to 3, that course that's from 2 to 3 would run from 2:10 onwards, giving you 10 minutes to get there from your previous class. It's just enough time to get across campus, but only barely. And particularly in the winter, it can be a pretty tough run. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and take a glance at the timetable builder at this point. Don't worry, we're going to have an opportunity for some questions in a minute after we do an example here. So I'm going to go ahead and bring us to the timetable builder. Hopefully this works smoothly. Looks like it did. Okay, so if you just go ahead and Google the timetable builder at this point, you'll see it at the very top of your Google search. And when you go here to the ttb.utoronto.ca link, this is going to be what you see. The first and obviously the first thing that we have to address, the big problem that we have originally, is that the filters have not been properly set. So we already know that we're a faculty of arts and science student, so we do need to make sure that we set that filter. And then right now, because summer courses are running, it does list the summer sessions. This is where we're searching for courses. And so we need to make sure that we switch that over to the fall winter, because that's going to be where we're enrolling in courses. So we now have this set up correctly, and we can start looking for courses. If somebody wants to go ahead and suggest a course or a topic maybe in the chat, or just wants to shout something out, we can look for a course.
English.
Sure, let's do English. That's an easy one. So, as Denise mentioned, the course listings are pretty intuitive. Generally, if you want to find a topic, it's the first three letters of the subject. So for English, it's ENG. So just popping in ENG, we can see a long list of courses you could potentially take. One of that, let's do 102 as our example for our course here. So we're going to search that up. There's one section of the course, and this is what a timetable listing is going to look like. So if we want to just go back and dwell on our slide just for a quick moment here, there's a bunch of different things that we want to take a look at, the description, the prereqs. So let's just see if we can take a look at all of those in the builder. So we need to make sure that we actually make the course information available to look at. So we want to open this link here, and this will show us all the information that we need for the course. We can see the description. We can see that it has no prereqs, coreqs, or exclusions, which is handy. We can see that it has a BR requirement of 1, which Denise discussed in your degree requirements. So were you to take this course, it would count towards the BR1. We can see, obviously, it's an H1F course, so we know it's a half course running in the fall term, but just in case there's any doubt, it's worth a half credit. We can see as well in its actual listing, there's no tutorial for this course. There's no practical. It's just a lecture section, so that's easy. We can see that it's in person. It does have enrollment controls with a priority, which we're going to dwell on in a minute here. And then we can see that it's running in SS, which is Sid Smith, and the times that it's actually going to be taking place. So let's say we want to take this course. A really handy feature of the timetable builder is that you can use it to plot out a provisional timetable for yourself. And so you can just click this button here and you've added it to that schedule. So I highly encourage you to try to use this feature. To dwell a little bit on enrollment controls just for a moment, because I have a slide on this that we're going to look at in a second, it's important that you do show the explanation of what the priority or of what the enrollment controls are. Something that you'll see here is that it gives you some sort of standard text about how priorities work. Essentially, they work such that until the general enrollment period begins, which is the 31st of July, or sorry, is the 26th of July, students that have these qualities are able to enroll in this course, but other students aren't. So you guys are first-year students. Most of you are going to be first-year students. So you have that priority control. When your enrollment happens on the 18th of July, you will be able to enroll in this course. A fourth-year student whose enrollment happens way before yours may want to take this course, and they'll try to enroll in it, but they can't because they're not a first-year student or a fourth-year student. They would be able to enroll starting in the general enrollment period. So that's a quick sketch of how priority works. We can dwell on that a little bit more in a second. Let's one more example course from somebody.
A political science course.
Great. Yeah, sure. Let's do that. So political science follows the same idea, first three letters. So we want a POL. And let's go ahead and grab Pol 101 as our example course here. So then this is a great example. Thank you for bringing it up because it has something that ENG did not, which is specific tutorial or timetable instructions. So they're usually bolded, very clear here. So you want to make sure that you read this. You must enroll in the tutorial section at the same time you enroll in the course. So these instructions are pretty straightforward. They're basically just telling you what I have already told you, which is that you need a tutorial as well as a lecture. Often, these instructions will be something more specific, like saying, if you are enrolled in lecture section 0101, there is a range of tutorials that you can enroll in, and you must have one of these. You'll see that, for example, if you enroll in Eco 101. So let's just do a quick glance at any specific information that we need to look at that was not available on this page here. We can look at the description like before. There's an exclusion for Pol 101 Y1, which that course doesn't exist anymore, so you don't need to worry about that. But had you have taken Pol 101 Y1 in the past, you wouldn't be able to take Pol 101 H1 for credit. And that's really all we need to see for that. For this course, it does have a lecture section as well as a tutorial section. And so we know that we need to have both. There's only one option for the lecture, so we know we have to add that. Oh, and this is unfortunate. It looks like it has a conflict with ENG 102. So if I were to advise you, and I saw this in your schedule, I would tell you that you're not allowed to do this. You really should not do. I mean, you can technically do this. Acorn won't stop you, but we strongly advise that you don't do this. Just for the sake of our demonstration, we'll leave it for now. And then you need to add a tutorial. So as you go through your planning, again, remember that you're trying to come up with 5 FCEs. So you want 5 courses, preferably in the fall, 5 courses in the winter. You should plot out that plan here on the timetable builder to see if there are issues like timetable conflicts. Okay, we'll move on from the timetable builder for now. We can always come back to this later if there's more questions. But let's go right back to what I wanted to show you quickly. So there is something called the Arts and Science Legend, which is at this button here, which shows you information about the enrollment controls and delivery modes. I've just grabbed that to look at in our slides here. We've already discussed a little bit about priority. This is going to be the most common enrollment control that you're going to see, and a lot of courses will have priorities. A big one for you, given that you're humanities and social science students, is that you're going to be wanting to look to see if courses have priority controls for specific admission streams. The most common place that this is probably going to come up in your experience is if any of you are at all interested in trying to do some life science courses or perhaps even some math and physical science courses. A lot of those courses will have priority controls for life science admission stream or math and physical science stream. So if you want to take, for example, Bio 120 in order to try to make your way into getting to the psychology program, you're going to have to wait until the priority period ends because Bio 120 does have priority for life science stream students. There are a couple of these enrollment controls that you're more likely to see than others in your first year. I want to just point out E, enroll at department. So if a course does have an E enrollment control, you don't actually enroll in it on Acorn. It will have its specific instructions in the timetable instructions for how to enroll. The other one you're going to see quite a lot is the R's, the restricted. For these courses, unless you meet that restriction, so you are on that list that it shows, you cannot enroll in those courses at all. A good example would be if you have any interest in taking Rotman Commerce courses for business. Unfortunately, you can't. RSM courses all have restrictions for specifically commerce students. I won't dwell on the delivery modes. They're pretty straightforward, but if there are any questions about that later, we can talk about that. So we'll have a couple minutes for questions. If anybody has any, you can write in the chat or you can just shout them out, and myself and Donald will try to address them.
So more just for clarity, but with our first year then doing, regardless, I suppose, of what program we end up doing, it would be 5 courses. Is that right? If they were all full year credit courses in our timetable.
Yeah, so it would be pretty unusual to end up with 5 Y courses, but that is a possibility. Your goal is to have, assuming that you want the standard 5 FCEs, you want 5 credits per term. So 5 in the fall, 5 in the winter. Usually that's going to look more like you have 1 or 2 Y courses, and then you have 3 fall courses and 3 winter courses.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so Heather, good point. They are used interchangeably, the terms session, term, subsession. They're sort of all over the place. And with the timetable builder, they do contradict the terms that we use here in the registrar's office somewhat. For the purposes of the Faculty of Arts and Science, the session is the 2024-2025 fall-winter session, meaning when we say session, we're talking about both terms together. And when we talk about term or subsession, we're referring specifically to the fall or the winter. Timetable builder will actually say session fall or session winter. That's just ignore that. That's just because the timetable builder is for literally all the U of T courses across all faculties, and it's just a general term. So just make sure that when you're talking about term or subsession, you know you're referring specifically to just the fall or the winter. Yeah, so for the summer, you're right that the summer does run from May to August. We won't spend much time on that unless you have specific questions about that at the end of our presentation. Yeah, so Lucy, if courses do have tutorial sections, it is mandatory that you enroll in a tutorial section along with the lecture section.
Is it normal if I'm seeing more fall courses than winter courses, or is it just like that in general?
They should be fairly evenly distributed. Some courses will have like a 101 that runs in the fall and a 102 that runs in the winter. Some courses will run the 101 in both terms. It sort of just varies by department. So you won't have any trouble filling out both terms. So I see lots of questions rolling out here. I want to try to make sure that we get through the whole presentation. So we'll come back and see how much of this we can address after we're done with the sections after this. But yes, okay, moving on. I'll keep an eye on that chat. We'll come back and answer those as we can. So we've talked about courses. The next thing that I want to spend some time on is talking about programs. So as Denise indicated, it's really important that when you're thinking about your courses in your first year, what you really have at the top of your mind is the programs you're interested in enrolling in. So for just starting this program conversation, it's really important to point out that in your admission stream, humanities, social science, it's so broad. It could mean so many different things. There are surely things that you can study and that at this university that you don't even realize you can study. And so my first piece of advice to you would be that you really do need to go look at the academic calendar. You need to scroll through all of the options that are available through the departments and the programs just to get a sense of what's out there that you might study that you didn't realize you could study. You want to get some idea of the programs you want to take. Like Denise said, a good idea would be to have 3 or 4 programs perhaps that you might be interested in. Once you figured out what those programs are, you want to enroll in those courses first, and then, as previously discussed, try to fill in those breadth requirements, make room for the seminars, the ones programs, maybe just enroll in something out of interest like a language. So that's a really rough sketch of what the process is going to look like. But specifically on the topic of programs, I want to spend a little bit of time talking about the kinds of programs and what that plan should look like. So can anybody just remind me what combination of programs actually earns a degree?
So you can do 2 majors. There's a specialty, and then is it 1 major and 3 minors?
1 major and 2 minors, but yeah, very, very close. So 1 specialist, 2 majors, or 1 major and 2 minors. Those are the 3 combinations that earn a degree. That's the minimum requirement of you in order to earn your degree within the Faculty of Arts and Science. But with that being said, how many programs are you allowed to actually take? It's 3. So you can take 3 programs total. Of those programs, only 2 of them could be a specialist or a major. So it's true, you need to take 2 majors, but if you wanted to, you could add a minor to it. You need to take at least 1 specialist, but you could add a minor. You could even add another major or a specialist. That would be a pretty unusual thing to decide to do, but you could actually do that. When do you enroll in your programs? Hopefully not a trick question.
July 18th.
No, so that you're enrolling in your courses on July 18th. You enroll in your programs after your first year. And in order to get into your programs after your first year, you do that by completing your courses in your first year. Your programs will have their own requirements, which we'll look at next. But with even beyond those programs, there's your degree requirements. So, for example, the English major, which we can take a look at, has 7 credits that it requires. Were you to take a political science major as well, I believe it's also 7 credits for a total of 14 credits. That's how many courses in total, at minimum, it would take to finish both programs. However, your degree requires that you actually take 20 credits total, which means that there's 6 whole credits that aren't doing anything towards those programs. That's where you're going to find room for those elective courses, those seminars, those ones. That's what that space is for. Okay, so there are technically 2 kinds of programs, but there's really 3 kinds of programs, and I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about those. The first would be the open enrollment programs. They're really, really straightforward. They're very simple to enroll in. As long as you want to take it, you can enroll in an open enrollment program. English is an example. We're looking at the writing and rhetoric minor hosted at Innis College. That's another example. When the program enrollment period begins at the end of your first year, it usually starts around like the beginning of March. You can just go into Acorn and enroll in this program, and it's yours. All you have to do is follow the requirements that are listed on the calendar, and you'll be able to complete the program. The other category is limited enrollment courses or programs, and we have economics as an example here. For limited enrollment programs, you specifically have to meet a set of requirements that is set out on the calendar in order to be able to enroll. As we can see for economics, the requirements for this major is that you take your first year of economics, either Eco 101 and Eco 102 or Eco 105. I always recommend you take Eco 101 and Eco 102 in this case. And then you need to take a first year of math, either Math 133 or Math 135 and 136, or 137, so on. You'll see in brackets that there are specific grades that you have to accomplish. It's not enough to just pass these courses. You have to make sure that you get that minimum grade. As long, however, as you get those grades, you get the 63 across your ecos, you get the 60 across your Math 135, 136, you are for sure going to be admitted to this program. When the program enrollment period begins, you just request the program. The department will make sure you met the requirements, and as long as you did, they'll send you an invite, and you can accept the invite, and you're in the economics major. That's the second example. The third example is a bit of a variation on this model, the competitive limited enrollment program. And so the example here is cinema studies. I know Denise discussed this already in her session. For competitive limited enrollment courses, there's still a minimum requirement that you have to achieve in order to be considered for the program. And you'll still request it in the same period that you would request the other limited enrollment course programs. In the case of cinema studies, you need to take Sin 105 or Sin 201, and you need to get at least a 70%. Now, the difference with the competitive limited enrollment courses or programs is that there's a limited number of spots. They only take a certain number of students per year, and you're competing with those students in order to get spaces. Because of that competition, there's always a cutoff for the grade that you have to achieve in the course in order to get in. And even then, it's still going to be competitive after that cutoff. And so if you wanted to take the cinema studies major, you need to get at least that 70%. And realistically, you probably need to get maybe a 75% or higher to really be competitive to get into the program. And even at that point, there is still a risk you will be refused admission into the program. And so this is really the big reason why it's important that you have some backups in mind if you want to do one of these competitive limited enrollment programs. You can tell that they're competitive because they will have this line about the variable minimum grade. And there's usually pretty clear instructions about what the expectations are after the course listings. Some programs also, specifically majors and specialists, have things called focuses. Focuses are usually optional. There's a couple of exceptions where they're mandatory. And they are completed as part of completing the requirements for the major or the specialist. Focuses are essentially an opportunity to organize the courses you're taking within a major or specialist into a specific area. And if you complete that focus, it gets added to your program when it shows on your transcript at the end of your studies. You've completed, say, the economics major. If you complete the requirements that are listed for data analytics, it will also say that you had a focus in data analytics. The last category that I want to talk about briefly is certificates. Certificates are not programs, but you enroll in them like programs. They don't count against the 3 program limit that you can take. They're almost, I think they're always 2 FCEs. There's no variance on that at this point, and they're completely optional. If you complete a certificate similar to a focus, it will appear on your transcript at the end of your studies, and you can enroll in them as long as you're going to complete the requirements. A really popular example is Business Fundamentals, which is a certificate offered by Rotman Commerce. You cannot normally enroll in RSM courses, but there are 4 RSM courses that they offer a variant of called, it's MGT rather than RSM, but it's the same course. And if you complete these 4 courses, you can get a certificate in Business Fundamentals. One more thing that I want to touch on briefly is the Arts and Science Internship Program. You may or may not have read about this already, but you will see in the calendar listings that there are programs that have ASIP stream majors. You can apply for the ASIP stream majors of these programs that do exist, that the programs that offer the ASIP stream. And if you get into the ASIP stream, essentially the key difference is that in your 2nd and your 3rd years, you will be taking courses that are non-credit. They're not contributing to your 20 FCEs, but they work towards helping you develop some professional skills in terms of preparing your resume, networking, developing yourself for a professional persona. And then in place of your 4th year, you actually go on a 12 or 16-month work term. You then come back and you do a 5th year, which is your 4th year. It's a really great program, but it's totally optional. You don't have to do that in order to get your Honors Bachelor of Science, your Honors Bachelor of Arts. So if you are interested in it, I encourage you to go to ASIP's website and take a look at what the expectations are. So I can see there are lots of questions about programs. I want to make sure, let's see here. I have you guys until 12:15. I want to take 10 minutes to do my last section. So let's just have a couple of questions. Donald, do you think there's any burning ones in the chat that we need to get to right away?
Unfortunately, Jack, because people are sending you direct messages, I can't see the chat. So that's why I've invited people to write to the main room by clicking everyone at the bottom, because I've seen none of them.
Okay, yeah, no, I do see they're all direct messages now.
But
okay,
people, if you'd like to write something to everyone, I can answer as Jack does the last section.
Yeah, so I'll try to answer a couple of these, and then I'll leave another minute for people to just jump on the chat and ask questions. Megan, you are indeed enrolling in both your fall and your winter term courses on your July 18 course enrollment date. Let's see here. Hiroto, there is a question about IB credits. I will try to, if we have some time afterwards and even heading into the break, I can show the room chart that exists on the Arts and Science website that talks about AP, IB transfer credits and how they might be integrated into your program admission and your prerequisites. Sam, yeah, so in order for program admission, the expectation is that you are completing all of the courses that are listed for the program admission in the fall-winter session. And so you should be completing all of the courses that are required by the end of the winter term. There is a second request period for some programs, for most programs, that would allow you to, rather than finishing the program in the fall-winter session, you can finish some of the requirements in the optional summer session and then enroll in the program at the end of the summer. Cameron, courses for the Center of Ethics, as long as they have their standard course codes and they're listed as H1F or Y1Y, they will contribute. I do want to just take a look at the calendar really quickly to see if I can show myself what you're talking about here. So let's go to the Center of Ethics. Center of, oh, it's probably listed under E. Yes. So Center for Ethics, yeah. So Cameron, these are standard courses. You will see that the Center of Ethics does not have any programs listed, and so these ETH courses don't have any obvious program that they're contributing to through the Center for Ethics. However, there are a number of programs that will allow you to use these ETH courses for their program requirements. And you can also take them, of course, as electives. Nicole, yeah. So if a course lists lectures and tutorials, you need one of each. So some courses will have a bunch of lecture sections and some courses will have a bunch of tutorial sections. It lists a bunch of different times, ideally because it's helping students schedule depending on what their scheduling needs are. So as long as you pick one of each, you're fine. However, you must have one of each. So if you were to enroll, say, in Eco 101 as an example, and we're looking at the timetable builder right now, so why don't I just go ahead and show this to you. So for Eco 101, you'll see there are a bunch of lecture sections. It runs, I think there's like 10 of them. And then tutorials, there's also a bunch of tutorial sections. You will see for Eco 101 that it has pretty specific timetable instructions. If you're enrolled in lecture 0101, there's a specific set of tutorials you can choose. Lecture 0201, specific set of tutorials you can choose. As long as you're in one of each, you're properly enrolled in the course. And so really all of the options is just to make sure you can schedule properly. Okay, I'm going to do one more question and then we're going to move on to make sure that I have some time. So Jack, you're asking, just looking what the requirements are for political science major. Sure, yeah, so let's do a quick look at the political science major on the calendar. I know this came up earlier in Denise's section as well. So for the political science major, if we take a look, this is a limited enrollment program, meaning that it's non-competitive. As long as you meet the grade that it lists, you will be able to enroll in the political science major. And the requirements, they look like they're kind of complicated, but they're really not that complicated. So you can do one of two things. You can either complete one credit total, so one FCE, out of these 4 courses. So you'll see they're all H1s, they're all half credits. What this means is that you have to take 2 of these 4 courses, and you need to get a grade of 65 or more. You can either do that, or you can take 1/2 credit out of that list, and then 1/2 credit from a broad range of courses. And these courses are either going to be first-year foundation seminars in politics or the Monk 1 program courses. You'll know if you're able to take, you'll know if you're in these courses because you're either going to take those political science seminars or you're going to be in these ones, and you can use those in place of one of the political science courses. Okay, we'll try to leave some time for some more questions after the last section of the presentation. So let's go right back to it. I'm glad that there are so many questions. I'll do my best to answer them at the end. Okay, so the plan now, as we're talking about sort of strategy and looking towards your course enrollment date, is pretty straightforward. You want to decide on a group of programs you're interested in. Preferably there's some, if you have an idea of doing some specifically competitive limited enrollment programs, you definitely want to have an idea of a couple of not limited programs in case you're unsuccessful in getting in those competitive programs. You're going to want to choose courses that are relevant for those program admissions. You're going to want to plot those courses out on the timetable builder to make sure that they all fit into a schedule. And then once those are all plotted, add some electives and plan a couple of backups for courses in case you can't get into the courses you want. Once you've actually plotted all of this out in the timetable builder, it's important that you get your Acorn ready for your course enrollment. So the 1st of July is the day that you're going to be able to log into Acorn and actually see the literal time that you will be enrolling in your courses. And as first-year students, you're going to be enrolling on the 18th of July. There might be a couple of transfer students in here that might have a slightly earlier enrollment time. If that's the case, that's okay. You can check in with us if you have any questions, but you're probably enrolling on the 18th of July. You want to prepare your enrollment cart ahead of time before the 18th of July, which is a feature that you have access to as part of your course enrollment in Acorn. If you're not clear on what that is, because maybe you haven't looked at the Innis 101 yet, or you haven't had the opportunity to research this, there's a really helpful tutorial on Acorn under this how-to website that you can go look at later to help you make sense of how to use the enrollment cart. But essentially, you just set it up so you put all your courses in a list in Acorn rather than having to search them up on the spot during your 18 July enrollment. And then there's just a single button for each course that you have to go to. And you just click that button at your enrollment time and hopefully get into all your courses. So when that time does come on the 18th of July, let's say it's 10:15 in the morning, you need to log in at 10:15. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of other students that are trying to enroll and you're in courses at the exact same minute as you are. So you need to be there at that minute to make sure you get the courses you want. Don't panic refresh Acorn because it's a known thing that it will now, the refresh takes a couple of minutes. It's going to slow you down. It's going to make it so you have a less competitive edge getting to your courses. So don't refresh, just let it think. And once you actually get in, you want to go to that enrollment cart that you prepared ahead of time and just enroll in your courses by clicking that single button, which is going to make your life a lot simpler than having to search up your courses and choose your sections on the spot in Acorn. There is a possibility that you're going to end up on some wait lists, which we're going to talk about in the next slide. And just remember, if you do want any e-enrollment courses or A-enrollment courses, which is similar, which you are really only going to see this for if you're in the one programs, like the Trin and the Monk 1 programs, just leave space for those courses. So if you do end up on a wait list, I just want to explain to you what that actually means really quickly. It's pretty intuitive. If you're on a wait list, you get a rank in the wait list or in a queue. If there are 10 people in this queue ahead of you, your rank is going to be 11. If somebody drops the course, the person that's first on the wait list gets a spot. You go from rank 11 to rank 10. Hopefully enough people drop the course over the period of July and heading up into your course start that you manage to get a space. Waitlists do count against your course load, so do keep that in mind. You need the maximum number of waitlists that you can have is 2 FCEs worth. And honestly, if you're trying to get into more than that, then something has probably gone a little bit wrong with your course enrollment. You should probably reach out to us to talk about how your course enrollment is going. The general rule for waitlists is on your enrollment date, if you try to get into the course and there's a wait list and your rank is 10% or less of the course capacity, you've got reasonable odds of getting into the course. So let's say it's a course with 300 spots. If you're within that first 30, you're likely going to get into the course. If you're beyond that 30, you're probably not going to get into the course. It's, of course, never guaranteed, but that's a rule of thumb. And this is why it's really important that you have some backups in mind for your courses. Hiroto, so for the specific time of enrollment, that's what you're going to go onto Acorn on the 1st of July, and Acorn will tell you the specific minute that you can roll in on the 18th of July. So make sure that you log in on the 1st of July to learn what that time is. So it is, sorry, Nicole. So I'll address more of these questions at the end of the section. We're almost at the end, and I do need to make sure you guys are ready to move on in about 10 minutes. So for your course enrollment, as we mentioned with the P enrollment indicator, during the period of time that you are enrolling, your first day of enrollment on the 18th of July, it's the priority enrollment period. That's when those P enrollment indicators are active. As of the 26th of July, it becomes the general enrollment period and those priorities drop. And so if you are that student that wants to take Bio 120, this is when you could log in and actually enroll in that course because the priority is no longer in effect. During the priority period, you can only enroll in up to 5 courses in the fall and 5 courses in the winter. Starting 26th of July with the general enrollment period, you can now enroll in up to 6. And so if it is the case that there was a course you really wanted, but it has a long wait list, for example, you could go ahead and just waitlist in that course on the 26th of July and hope for the best. You can see there are a couple of dates that you will not be able to enroll in courses. Don't panic if you can't on those days. If you are interested in enrolling in UTM or UTSC courses, and I will say quickly as an aside, I don't generally recommend this in your first year. If this is something you're thinking about, you really ought to reach out to our office to discuss that idea, but you can start enrolling in those courses starting on the 2nd of August. And I just want to, hopefully this is a reminder, but in case you don't know this, you can continue to add new courses, new F&Y courses, all the way up to the 16th of September, which means you could go ahead and drop a course you don't like and add a new course up to about 2 weeks into class. So do keep in mind that you have that option. A couple of things that I just want to mention as we wrap up our time here for this session, some good to know items that I think it's worth it to mention. You can, in any given term, you can only enroll in one lecture section of a course. If you want to change that lecture section, there's no way to do that just by going in and modifying your lecture section. What you actually have to do is drop the lecture that you're in and add the new lecture. If it's the case that this is a popular course and the lecture you want to switch to has a wait list, you're going to have to wait list for that course. And so it's really important that when you're trying to choose courses that you think are going to be really popular or competitive, that you choose the lecture that you actually want first, because you're only going to put yourself in trouble if you choose one that you didn't actually want and you have to switch out of it ultimately anyway. You can, however, switch your tutorial and your practical sections of the course while remaining enrolled in the lecture. So the most important thing is that you choose the lecture that works for you, and then you can always modify your tutorial later if needed. You should know that course prereqs will not be checked initially. You're going to be able to enroll in courses that you don't have the prereqs for, but don't think you've cheated the system. Departments are going to look in the first couple of weeks of class, and if you don't have the department or the prereqs for a course, that you will just be unceremoniously booted from the course with a brief email telling you that you didn't have the prereqs. Don't enroll in courses that you don't have the prereqs for. It's not a good idea. We did an example of PAL 101 and ENG 102 having a conflict. Don't do that to yourself. Conflicts result in all kinds of problems for you, and there's absolutely no obligation from profs or the registrar's office to accommodate any issues that happen to you because of conflicts. Don't enroll in them. It's a terrible idea. I just want to mention these really quickly. You don't have to internalize this information too much right now, but know that there's a tool called late withdrawal that allows you to drop courses even after the drop date, all the way up into the last day of classes. Know that there's a tool called credit no credit that lets you hide the grade of elective courses that you're taking if you're worried you're not going to do well. Let's say you want to take a math course and you don't plan on taking a math program, you can credit no credit the course. There's also something called Degree Explorer, which is going to be basically useless to you in your first year. But as soon as you have programs, it will be really helpful for your planning and making sure that you're on track of moving forward with your degree correctly and getting your programs completed. Okay, and my very last slide, and we're already at 3 minutes over, so sorry, I'll do my best to answer questions after this, is that you need to understand that you are now considered responsible adults and that the university is going to consider you a responsible adult. And what that means is that you have to make sure that you know and understand everything that the university expects you to know and understand. The university expects you to know all publicly available information. It expects you to have read every email that's sent to you. It expects you to read the calendar pages, the program descriptions, the course descriptions of everything that you're enrolling in. And it expects you to understand the dates and deadlines for finances, for payment, these sorts of things. It is your responsibility to know if you have prereqs, co-reqs, and exclusions for courses. It's your responsibility to know if you've enrolled yourself in a conflict, so on and so on. You can read the slide. We can, of course, still help you when you find yourself in a situation that you are having a problem because of co-reqs or prereqs or these sorts of things. But we will expect that you knew that that problem existed ahead of time and that you're doing your utmost to deal with the problem in a quick and timely fashion. If you miss the drop deadline because you just didn't know, even though it's publicly available information, there's nothing we can do for you. Unfortunately, you're going to have to keep the course unless you want to late withdrawal, which is not another option. Okay, Here's a slide that just has some important dates for you to note down. I'll leave it here. We don't need to go over it. We are at this point at 12:20, so we're a few minutes over what we were supposed to be done by. We are technically on our break. That's going to be happening just before Money Matters starts at 12:25, and we will be kicked out of this room right at 12:25 to attend Money Matters. However, I'm going to spend some time. I will be here until we get kicked out to answer whatever questions you've got. I'm just going to look at the chat really quickly and see if I can bust out a couple quick answers here. Nicole, you will see what your waitlist rank is when you enroll in the course. It'll be clear to you when you enroll in Acorn. Kvitka, sorry if I say your name incorrectly. If a course has a tutorial and a practical, you need to enroll in each. You need to enroll in one section or one section of each type of section a course has. So if it has a lecture, a tutorial, and a practical, you need one of each. If it only has a lecture, you just need a lecture. If it has only a lecture and a tutorial or a practical, again, one of each. Arjun, for Flick enrollment, you should double check and make sure that the Flick that you have enrolled in, if it has specific instructions about your course enrollment. I think for specifically the humanities and social science Flicks, I think they just recommend which courses you should be enrolling in as opposed to enrolling you in them automatically. So just double check the page and you can always contact the Flick team to clarify. Cameron, I can see you're very interested in those ethics courses. If the course is not listed on the timetable builder at this point, it is likely because the course is actually not being offered this year. If the course does exist in the calendar, the course does continue to exist, but some courses for various reasons are not always offered, and this is probably one of them. Okay, I think I've gotten to all the questions in the chat. Does anybody have any last couple questions just before we get kicked out?
Hello, Mr. McGrath. Is there what time should we be ready for course enrollments?
So you're going on the 1st of July, you can log into Acorn and you'll be able to see the literal time that you will be able to log into Acorn on the 18th of July to enroll. So you on the 1st of July, you should go to Acorn, and just as an example, you'll look at Acorn and it'll say your course enrollment is at 9:30 in the morning. You'll then log in on the 18th of July at 9:30. That's when you can enroll in courses.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, so Mariana, if a course has both lecture and tutorial sections, you need to enroll in one of each. Nalani, that's a great question. I don't have quite enough time to answer it properly here, but what I'm going to recommend you do is that you do send an email to the registrar.innis Toronto email address with that question, and I can point you. Sorry, let's just do that. Just email registrar.innis with the question about the transfer credit, and I'd be more than happy to help you out with that more specifically. Kenza, yeah. So you're more than welcome to, if after you've put together a plan, you could even prepare it in the timetable builder, take a screenshot of it and send it to the registrar.ns. I would be more than happy to take a look at it. You should give me some idea of what the programs are you want to get into, just so I can compare that to the courses you're taking. But yes, I'd be happy to look at that for you. Okay, guys, we're probably going to get kicked out in just a second, and then Daniela's Money Matters is going to start. I do recommend you participate. It's a very useful session. And about knowing your responsibility and knowing the dates and deadlines for payments, she is going to address that. So you should make sure that you listen. I hope this was useful for you. I know we didn't cover all the questions and all of your curiosities. Do feel free to send an email. Do feel free to call if you need to, and I would be happy to talk to you about any specific issues you're having. Okay, guys, feel free to leave the breakout room at this point. It is going to close automatically in like 30 seconds, but you can go ahead and just leave.